What's going on, y'all? This is Dana Polk Jr., Master Executive 8. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about why practicing semen retention is a good idea after a breakup. So, after you separate, you'll find yourself, well, I found myself seeking to take out my anger on, you know what, I can't say take out my anger, but I started seeking sexual encounters, like heavily, like to the point to where I was trying to deal with my emotions instead of me actually dealing with them. I was just looking to fill them with sex, fill them with habits. Um, I had this one woman I would go to see, and we would just have sex, and like it was empty. I mean, it felt good, but afterwards, I was still with all the anger. I was still with all the feelings that I had to deal with. So I knew that I couldn't continue to deal with my feelings in that way. So, then I turned to the marijuana. I was smoking way more than I had ever had in my life. Um, I was indulging in pornography whenever I wasn't having sex. And there are a lot of things that you'll want to do, when you separate from someone, but this was the thing that I found most beneficial, because I wasn't seeking to. It forces you to deal with those emotions, because you're not looking for other women to make you feel good. You know, like I had thought that if I had more sex, you know what I mean, if I if I started seeking the companionship of women, that would, I was just running from myself. I was just running from myself. And after you break up, depending on how bad it was, you're gonna need all the energy that you can to deal with the after effects of having your emotions so entangled in a situation. So I think it's very, very beneficial for you to use that energy and to transmute it into something else more productive. Um, I will say, do allow yourself some time to feel the feelings, but then at some point, if you find yourself start engaging in this in just self-destructive activities, you have to start transmuting that energy. You'll start to seek your validation through sex. You'll do everything but want to deal with yourself. And with you constantly giving your energy out like that, you keep yourself in the red zone. I didn't start to experience growth until, and then even with that, like you're chasing. Yeah, I mean, so you got to pull back your energy, and you got to start to put it into more productive activities. And I just think it's a good idea because you'll even the anger that you have, you'll start to want to take that out on other women. That feeling of not being good enough, you'll start to seek that in women, in other women. I mean, because you feel rejected, um, you'll start to want to seek your validation from other women. Like, all right, um, I couldn't get that validation from her, so let me go get it from her. And like I said, in the moment, yeah, it felt great. You know what I mean? I was doing things with the other women that I didn't do with the one that I was with. You know, and I felt good. But then it was like afterwards, when I got home by myself, I'm still having to deal with the feelings from the breakup. You know what I mean? And another thing is too is just be very careful. Like I wouldn't even like don't even get your emotions involved so early on. That was another issue I had, getting my emotions involved so fast. You know what I mean? Cause like you never know who you're dealing with. And when you're just giving someone your emotions, you're giving all your power away. And by your power, I mean your emotional control. And you'll start seeking validation in women. And that is a hump that you have to get over if you plan to engage with women moving on in a healthy way. Like you cannot continue to seek something that you have in others. So I started retaining, started working on those destructive habits. I know for me marijuana was one. I didn't want to. I just wanted to be high all the time. Like I didn't want to deal with reality. Yeah, I mean, another thing you'll want to do is change your environments if you have to. If you're in an environment that's not conducive to your growth, then you need to get out of that environment. Um, and you know what? I think I'm a rename this video. I'm gonna name it this is concerning retention, but these are some other things that you should do. Um, Definitely work on yourself. Work on especially your emotional control. That's the most important thing. The most important thing is your emotional control, because you'll be very sensitive. You know what I mean? After you get out of that situation, you'll want to start exercising. You know what I mean? In whatever form that suits you. Um, I would just start reading, start studying. You know what I mean? Any topic that interests you. Meditation. Meditation, I feel like is very important. Give yourself time to just clear your mind. You know what I mean? Declutter your mind. some breathing. I think that's very important. Um, and gaining control over your sexual energy. I think that's the most important part. I would say that that is actually the goal of retention, is to gain more control over your sexual energy, gain more control over your impulses and emotions. Work on your health. Start eating better. Work on you don't have to respond to everything that's said about you or said to you. You know what I mean? Notice the things that get you angry or upset. You know what I mean, notice the things that bother you, and do a better job at not letting them bother you so much. And another thing, as far as when it comes to cutting people off, I do think that there's definitely a place for that. I feel like if you're in an environment where you're not really supported, or because the number one thing that I want you guys to take from this is personal responsibility. No one's no one else is the reason for you feeling the way that you feel. Just because someone does something doesn't mean that um, any way that you're responding has to do with them. Um, Also, be aware of the trap of trying to make people feel bad for you. You know what I mean? By telling like a sob story. Like you're not a victim. Like you're not a victim. The things happen to us because we allow them to. So be aware of their victim mentality, and understand that it's your responsibility to set up boundaries in your relationships. It's your responsibility to know how to deal with your emotions. It's your responsibility to have a direction and a purpose in life. Like you have to have a clear vision of where you want to go. You're going to have to work on building your confidence and your self-esteem back up. Because normally when you get out of that, and your self-worth, normally when you get out of that situation, it's going to take a blow on those things. You're going to have thoughts of not being enough. You know what I mean? And those thoughts are only true in your mind. It's not based on what someone else did. The one thing I think semen retention really helps with is your self-worth. Because the more you retain, the more valuable you treat yourself. You no longer want to just give into your impulses just for the sake of giving into them. You'll start to want to be more intentional. I would just highly suggest you work on your mental health, your bodily health, and that you actually focus your mind and your attention there. I mean, work on getting your mind right. Work on getting your body right. Work on your finances. I mean, I know finances is a big thing too, because you should never be in a position after you leave a relationship to where you're completely financially having to start over. Like, there should have been some sort of savings, you know what I mean, for emergency, some sort of um, maybe business that you establish to where you can bring in income, without a job, or without um, like having to rely on anyone. Like, you should never keep having to start over. Like, there should be some discipline even with your finances. You have to work on trusting yourself. A lot of times we ask people for what we should do with our lives, when deep down we know exactly what we should be doing. And if we're not doing that, then we'll feel some type of way. And just back to cutting people off. You The reason that it's also very important to work on your emotional intelligence and your emotions is because sometimes, like, afterwards, you'll especially if you were like you know you weren't able to gauge the people around you. You'll get into an area of not trusting nobody. You know what I mean? And I'm not even necessarily saying that you should, but if you find yourself cutting people off, like, just damn near for no reason, like, they say one little thing that doesn't agree with what you got to say, you know what I mean, whether it's constructive or not, and you just cut them off because it doesn't make you feel good. Like, certain truths about yourself are not going to make you feel good, and you got to be mature enough to deal with the truth about yourself. And plus, when you're retaining, the amount of discipline that you're imposing on yourself will make it easier to deal with those other parts of yourself. And another reason you don't necessarily have to cut everybody off is because some people will just fall off. Like, don't go where you're not wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you feel like you're somewhere where you're not wanted, don't go there. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you spending some time outside of nature. You know what I mean? Where you get a chance to listen to the birds. You know what I mean? You get to get your feet in the ground. And as far as those that you do have to cut them off completely. Like, don't use, of course, you have minor communication that you may have to do, especially if you're like, when it comes to financial things, like bills, like maybe both of your names might be on something. You know what I mean? And y'all got to communicate, you know what I'm saying, like during the separation process, but that's it. And if you can, like, do that over email or something. Like, don't text the person, don't even call them. You know what I mean? Maybe if y'all got to meet them in a public place for whatever reason. You know what I mean? And leave it at that and nothing more. Nothing more. Cuz you need to completely, like, separate. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't keep the connection and be trying to separate at the same time. Like, you have to cut all ties. Like, I know the way that I did this was I deleted all her pictures, pretty much all of them. Like, any of them that I see come up, I deleted. You know what I mean? I unfriended her from all social medias. You know what I'm saying? I even unfriended all her family. I cut everybody off. You know what I mean? Anybody that had anything to do with the situation, I cut them off too. Like, they can't contact me. Like, I don't even care about an explanation. I don't care about none of that. I mean, you'll definitely want to take some time to think over. Oh man, this is big old bug on me. You just gonna just look at this dude, man. You know, see him on my knee right there. Just chilling. You just chilling. Yeah, man. He just. I'm gonna let him chill there, man. As long as he ain't causing no ruckus, he good. He looked like he just want to chill, so it's cool. We chilling. Um, I didn't do this, but if you feel like you have to, um, talk to somebody, or find some way to get your thoughts out. You got to get them out, whether that's through writing. Um, like, I know one thing that really helped me was, like I said, 4th of July. I went over somebody's house, and I rapped, and I felt really good afterwards. Like, I was able to let out some anger. The subject was police brutality. I was able to let out some anger, and it felt really good. Now, haven't been invited back since then, but yeah, no sweat, man. Like, don't hold no grudges. Don't like, God is actually, like, you need to be alone. I would say you need to spend some time alone, because that's another reason why you'll start to seek out relationships. The thing is, when I looked at my life, like, I had pretty much been in a relationship for dang near, I say, the last, like, dang 10 years. Like, in one for two, got out, got in another one, got out, got in another one, and you become codependent on someone. I think you have to face being alone. Like, you have to really face that. I remember talking to somebody and telling them that, I was afraid to be alone. Like deep down, I was afraid to be alone. If that's something that you're afraid of, you need to face that. You have to face that. I'm not saying you have to be alone for the rest of your life, but the thought of being alone should not scare you. Like it shouldn't scare you. You know what I mean? Like be your own relationship for a while. Take yourself out on dates. You know what I mean? Like treat yourself good. Everything that you used to do for that person, do for yourselves. Take yourself out to a game. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. Like I know for me, um, some of the things I enjoy doing is just, man, like I'm really not that complicated, man. I'll go to the park with my laptop and work. You know what I mean? Sometimes just watching videos, just enjoying myself. I might take myself out to eat. There's an event coming up that I'm going to. Sound like it's gonna be a lot of fun. Um, yeah, man. So like, work on yourself. Work on yourself. I know shadow work was very beneficial. Shadow work was definitely beneficial, and there's a flip side to shadow work too. Um, most of the shadow work I did was on the negative end, where I focused on the uh, what I thought was negative about the person, and then integrated it to myself. But also, what I think is very helpful is focusing on the positive aspects. For instance, um, there may be somebody who you think has qualities that you don't have, and that can make you feel like inadequate, like you're not enough. If you remember, just like the negative qualities, if you recognize negative qualities in someone else, that means you also can relate to those negative qualities. So do the same thing on the other end. If you recognize positive qualities in someone else, that means you also have those qualities and you have the ability to express those qualities. Learn to take advice from people. Like some of the advice you may not want to hear. You know what I mean? And you might cut somebody off that's giving you some good advice. You know what I mean? Of course, like there are people that I not like necessarily don't listen to anymore, not because they don't offer good advice, but just because it's not relevant to me anymore. Like there are certain things that are just not relevant. You know what I mean? So like some people may see that I may be unsubscribed from the channel, or maybe I don't call them or I don't talk to them anymore. And it's not because that there was nothing bad about them. It's just I'm growing, so like certain things aren't relevant to me anymore. There are certain things that are just not at the top of my mind. All right, so I'm gonna end this here. It's about 30 minutes. 30 minutes of grounding. um yeah, and I'll see you guys on the next video.